A very good evening and welcome to the national broadcast. I am Malsha Dharmavardhana.
A very good evening indeed. I am Charita Vinipurarachi, and let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news.
The Oxford AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine is scheduled to be brought to the island tomorrow. The vaccination process would commence day after tomorrow. China is to donate 300,000 corona vaccines to Sri Lanka. The largest group of COVID-19 recoveries, numbering 1,520, returned to their homes. Inquiries of the Presidential Commission into the Easter Sunday incident officially ends. Final report is to be handed over to the President before the 31st of this month.
On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with local stories. The Oxford AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine is scheduled to be brought to the island tomorrow. The vaccination process would commence the following day. This was disclosed by the senior chief presidential advisor Lalit Veeratunga, who has been appointed as the head of the presidential task force to import the vaccine to Sri Lanka, at a media briefing today.
Any long journey starts with a single step. I strongly believe in taking the right step forward. If we had not even got this 250,000 now as a donation from the government of India on the goodwill between the two countries, we would have gone nowhere. So the 250,000 is just a single step, the first step. And I think the first step has been taken well. Hopefully, I have had certain discussions, very tentatively I can say, at least 50 to 60% of the target group that we are looking at, we believe can be vaccinated during the course of the year. That's a very safe kind of timetable that we are putting out. It can even be faster. We are simply going through certain layers of our population, and those layers have been very carefully and very thoughtfully mapped out. So if someone is going out and wants to get the vaccination, to tell you very frankly, right now we don't have a facility. It might come out later when we have more vaccines, when we have a fair amount of storage. That can be a parallel activity where, some kind of priority can be afforded. Similarly, even the private sector has asked this question. They are even willing to fund for their own workers. But we still have not come to that. We are now trying to see what are our most critical layers of population, and therefore we will first go through this in maybe another I guess about in 2 months we should be able to look at some of these alternate paths. The frontline health workers is a priority, number one group. Then comes those who are in the front line but who are in the armed forces and the police who deal with the combating of the pandemic. Well, they come next. If you take the general population, those who are over 60 will get priority out of the normal population groups, and in it also people who are with comorbidities, right? People who have non-communicable diseases, someone say having a heart failure, or someone having some pressure issue, or someone having diabetic, they will obviously be given priority. So it is done on the electoral list where people's names are there, and at the Grama Nilidhari level, at the MOH level. That's why I said we use the National Election Commission data. Now, very interestingly, some people phoned me and said, my name is not in the electoral register. How would you take me in? We are now contemplating this, and then we might run a advertisement in all the national newspapers, and we will also give wide publicity. If your name does not appear in the electoral register, please send us a little note, or we will give a format, fill it up and send it to us. We will also make it electronically available, or even an SMS, so that they are also taken in. So we have time to do that. We will very quickly start this process. Right now, to be very frank, we have not taken into consideration the residence visa holders right now. But in the coming weeks, we will also look at those who are outside the electoral register. So those will also be taken into consideration. So the first priority, of course, will be to the citizens who are now in these electoral registers. So quietly we will go into other groups as well, But that, I must tell you, has not been determined as I speak to you now. When you have ideas of improving this process, because this process, as I see and as these experts see, will be spread over at least a year or maybe even a little more. So anything that could be done to improve the process, we will certainly take it on board, because this is a new experience. Here we are waiting for a vaccine. We don't know when some of these will be delivered. We don't know whether there will be a new vaccine which will be better than all of these. All these things are possibilities. But we would like to say, as of now, we are ready. That's the message that I want to give to the country.
In the meantime, China has decided to donate to Sri Lanka a stock of 300,000 anti-COVID-19 vaccines. The Office of Chinese Embassy in Sri Lanka in a media communique says that the stock of vaccines are expected to be handed over to the government by the middle of next month. The release further says that the battle against the COVID-19 also clearly illustrates the further strengthening of the historic friendship between Sri Lanka and China. The vaccines to be exported to Sri Lanka are being manufactured by Sinopharm Institute, which is one of the prominent vaccine-producing companies in China. The embassy adds that the vaccine is currently undergoing third-stage trials in several countries. It has been revealed that the vaccine has shown 86% of productivity. It could be stored and transported under temperatures ranging 2 and 8 Celsius. Countries such as United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Bahrain, Jordan, Iraq, Pakistan, Siberia have also granted approval for use of the vaccine among their citizens. So far, more than 20 million vaccines have also been provided and no serious after effects have been reported. The Chinese embassy communique adds that among those dignitaries who have received this vaccine included the president of Seychelles, the Prime Minister of United Arab Emirates and the Prime Minister of Bahrain.
The Epidemiology Division says 1,520 fully recovered COVID-19 patients have left their hospitals today. This was the highest number of patients leaving the hospitals in a single day. The number of COVID-19 recoveries in the country has increased up to 52,566. The percentage of fully recovered patients has increased to 87.27%. 12.25% COVID-19 patients are still undergoing treatment, which amounts to 7,379. A total of 17,273 COVID-19 recoveries have been reported in the country since the beginning of this month. Another 1,520 have been recovered and left the treatment centers today. 447 recovered COVID-19 patients at the COVID-19 treatment centers in Polonnaruwa district were discharged today. Another 311 COVID-19 patients were identified the island today. All patients have been identified as close contacts of the Plaliaguda COVID-19 cluster. 16,431 PCR tests were conducted yesterday. Accordingly, the total number of PCR tests up to now has reached 1,648,684. Another batch of 130 Ukraine nationals have arrived in the island from the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport yesterday under the program to bring foreign tourists into the country. 106 tourists who have ended their stay in the country have returned to Ukraine in the same aircraft. Health Division says that 22 more COVID-19 patients have been identified in Bondupitia in Matugama. A group of persons in the area was reported to have engaged in a tour by bus recently. It has also been reported that one of the passengers was afflicted with the COVID-19 disease. More COVID-19 patients have been detected upon conducting PCR tests on other bus passengers. The reports further says that 75 employees in a plywood manufacturing institute in Megama Industrial Zone in Matugama have also contracted the COVID-19 disease. Our correspondent says that accordingly, all employees in the factory have been subjected to quarantine. Another COVID-19 death was reported yesterday. The 71-year-old female disease has been identified as a resident from Ragama area. The National Education Institute is continuously engaging in the process of propagating distance education and implementation of new educational reforms even under COVID-19 conditions. The institute says it follows health guidelines properly within the institution premises. The national television telecasts educational program through the Guru Gedara series with the objective of preventing destabilization of education of students as some schools remain closed under the pandemic situation. It has also been reported that not a single patient has been reported the rapid antigen test conducted on the staff of the National Education Institute held on the 22nd of this month. The Parliament says it has been confirmed that State Minister Arundhika Fernando was also afflicted with the COVID-19 disease. The State Minister, placing a note in his Facebook entries, said that he has voluntarily conducted PCR tests and the results revealed that he was a COVID-19 patient. Isolation status imposed on 9 Gramarilladhari divisions in Atalugama Kalatura and also the Moragala Gramarilladhari division in the Halikula Divisional Secretariat division were lifted with effect from this morning. And Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has called on Anunayaka of the Amarapura Mulavanshika chapter Venerable Yogyane Sobita Thera and inquired on his well-being. The 66th birthday of the Sobita Anunayaka Thera, who was also the chief incumbent of the Yogyana Jayasundara Rame and Kirulapana Sri Ellen Metinya Rame, falls on today. The Prime Minister has extended best wishes with the health and longevity of the Venerable Thera. The Venerable Anunayaka Thera has delivered an Anumsashana on political, social and economic policies and also on living according to the Dhamma. The Mahasangha, headed by Mahanayaka of the Ramanjamahanikaya Agamaha Pandita Most Venerable Makulave Bimala Thera, head of the Vidyodaya Perimena Maradana Venerable Balangura Sobita Thera, Manayaka of Damarapura Mulavanshika chapter Most Venerable Lahunkalle Vimala Dhamma Thera, Anunayaka of the Ramanjamahanikaya Venerable Nadakamue Vijay Maitri Thera, Chancellor of the University Venerable Akureti Nanda Thera, Chief Sanganayaka of Taiwan and Director of the Nagananda University Venerable Bodhagama Chandima Thera, and Adhikarana Sanganayaka of the Amarapura Mulavanshika chapter Venerable Wikili Panjaloka Thera have also attended the event. Minister Vimal Veeravansha and IGP C.D. Vikramratne were also present. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has also attended an alms giving that has taken place in parallel to the birthday of Chief Incumbent of the Abhyarame Nara Himpita and Chief Sanganayaka of the Western Province Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandanayaka Thera today. The Prime Minister, upon arrival at the Abhyarame Purana Viharasthane, has met Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandanayaka Thera and extended best wishes on his 78th birthday. The Prime Minister has also extended best wishes on the health and longevity life of Nayaka Thera. Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandanayaka Thera, delivering an Anusashana, said that entire countrymen should extend their respects to the Prime Minister for service provided by him as the 5th Executive President of Sri Lanka. The Mahasangha, headed by Anunayakas of Malwatha chapter Venerable Dimulkumbure Vimaladhamma and Venerable Nyanguda Vedachidri Theras, Anunayakas of the Asugiri chapter Venerable Vedarve Upali Thera, head of the Asugiri Mahapirivena Venerable Narampanave Ananda Thera, Anunayak of the Kote Sri Kalyani Samagri Dhamma Mahasangha Sabaha Venerable Kotapiti Rahula Thera, Mahanayak of Damarapura Saddharmanakaya Most Venerable Trikunamale Ananda Thera and Maharagama Dharmayatra Anandapati Venerable Maharagama Dhammarsiri Thera have also attended the event. Newly appointed chairman of the Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce, Nandika Buddhipala, says that Sri Lanka will raise its head once again from the harmful economic condition caused as a result of the corona pandemic in the most excellent manner. He adds that this fact has been amply pointed out through a bank survey report published 2 weeks ago. The new chairman made these remarks addressing the 62nd annual sessions of the Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce held in Colombo yesterday. The chief guest of this occasion was State Minister Ajith Niwad Cabral. The new chairman Nandika Buddhipala is the chief financial officer of the commercial bank. Director of the D. Samson's Rubber Industries Kamit Rajapaksa has been appointed as the secretary of the chamber. Chairman Buddhipala added that world survey reports have established a fact that Sri Lanka is in the forefront among the countries which are vibrantly standing up as economically powerful nations after the corona pandemic.
2019, our macro fundamentals had taken a reasonable beating, and I must say we could have achieved a lot more if not for the fact that our foundation was somewhat weak. Our rupee had been depreciating at the rate of around 6.8% per annum for 5 years running, and that was a tough situation to deal with. And on top of that, when we found that our key inflow of foreign exchange was threatened, particularly tourism, we had $8.2 billion in reserves at the end of 2014. But at the time that we took back the government with only $7.6 billion in reserves, when we should have had around 15 billion, you could realize what kind of a stress we could have been facing and we were facing. But nevertheless, we had to take some tough measures. And I think many of you understood, although it was very painful for so many people in the fact that we had to curtail imports. But if we did not do that, the depreciation of our currency would not have been the 2.6% that we finally ended up 2020 with. It could have been a lot more. The prognosis was that good because of those tough decisions. But at the beginning, as soon as COVID struck, many people thought that it was going to be much worse. They would have expected the rupee to dwindle further, and many also expected interest rates to rise. But as a government, the strategic thrust of our government was that we wanted to make it as easy as possible for the entrepreneurs as well as businesses and the industries to do their business better. So I think the platform is now set with the return of tourism, albeit gradually. We would find that Sri Lanka would once again be in a position to attain that 4 to 5% growth in the year 2021. And we must strive for that, because I believe the platform for our growth in the next 5 years will be based on how we manage the year 2021.
Sri Lanka economy was gradually recovering from the severe impact on the Easter Sunday attacks in 2019 when we had hit from the global pandemic. The tourism and related sectors were saddled with a serious impact with the closure of airports, which was quite unavoidable. The situation was even made severe with more and more Sri Lankan employees wanted to return back, which had an impact on private remittances. The government was forced to limit imports with the intention of saving of flows of US dollars, considerable amount of loan repayment that we had to go through during year 2020 and moving forward. As a strategy to face the difficulties, Central Bank of Sri Lanka introduced many measures to reduce interest rates, enhance market liquidity, manage foreign exchange flows, maintain exchange rate stability and preserve international reserves, maintain financial system stability, and so forth. Lower interest rates reduced the burden on enterprises who were facing various difficulties, while announced debt moratorium and working capital loan schemes also provided concessions to business and individuals. As some research agencies highlighted that the domestic debt, which is estimated to have around 50% of the total debt burden of the government, used to attract more than 70% of the total interest cost of the government. Therefore, we infer that keeping local interest rate down would not only help the local enterprises to facilitate sustainability of their businesses, but it will help the government to manage debt burden as well. Another research report published by HSBC quite recently, Global Research HSBC, predicts that Sri Lanka would bounce back impressively, and in fact that is the biggest upgrade to their forecast they made recently. They further observed that mainland China, Taiwan, Vietnam and Korea, as well as Sri Lanka, has seen among fastest increase in shipments, with others lagging behind. They expected mainland China, Sri Lanka and Taiwan, Vietnam would start 2021 either at or above the level of activity before breakout of pandemic-19. They expect Sri Lanka GDP is likely to grow by quite astonishing amount. Nobody has said so, I think, so far, by 7% year-on-year, 2021, largely due to the base effect since they estimated 5% drop in GDP during 2020. The CBSL policy rate cut by 250 basis points, bringing down the standard lending facility rate, SLFR, to 550, has been fully transmitted through lending rates easing off by 280 basis points. There again, I'm extracting from this particular research report.
You're watching the national broadcast, and we continue with more local stories. Plans are underway to fully implement ultra-modern digitalization in postal services in Sri Lanka. Several plans of state and private sectors in the regard were presided at special discussions conducted at Postal Headquarters today, presided over by Minister of Mass Media, Dr. Kehelia Rambukwala. The minister on this occasion has pointed out that postal services should be updated with technological methodologies to cater to the needs of the general public even from 15 years from now. Currently, there are 653 post offices and 3,410 post offices are functioning in Sri Lanka. Secretary to the Ministry of Mass Media, Jagat P. Vijayveera, and Postmaster General Ranjit Aryaratna have also attended the event. Mass Media Minister Dr. Kelly Rambukwala said that the challenges that lies before them today is how to join hands with the contemporaries and implement a vibrant service. The minister further said that both state and private sectors should further provide a better postal service to the general public.
And meanwhile, former director of the Criminal Investigation Department, Shani Abesekara, says that he does not believe that former President Maithripala Sirisena was not aware of the pre-warnings on the Easter Sunday terror attack. He was giving evidence for the second day yesterday to the Presidential Commission investigating into the Easter Sunday attack from the Colombo National Hospital. The witness added that he is suspecting of an unseen hand behind the attack. Shani Abesekara, who is undergoing treatment for a heart ailment at the 42nd ward of the Colombo National Hospital, has given evidence over Skype technology. Chairman Justice of the Commission has inquired from the witness whether 2 of the 4 suspects taken into custody in connection with the detection of explosives in Vanathaveluwa had been released prior to the Easter attack, according to a report of the then senior DIG of CID, Ravi Senaviratna. Abesekara has responded positively to the query and added that it was then Governor of Western Province Azad Sali who had requested on the release of the 2 suspects. He added that, however, he had stated clearly that the suspects were unable to be released until the conclusion of the investigations. He also said thereafter Inspector of Police Mara Singha had concluded an inquiry related to the issue and reported that the 2 suspects were not connected to the Vanathaveluwa incident. Shani Abesekara further said that it was only after the release of the report that he had given permission to free the suspects according to a proper legal methodology. The Presidential Commission has pointed out that, however, IP Marsing had given evidence before the Commission stating that the witness as well as senior DIG Ravi Senaviratna had instructed him to expedite investigations and not to make any notices regarding investigations. Abesekara has denied allegations related to speeding up of the investigations and also said that he did not know why Marsing had failed to record statements from the witness. When he was questioned regarding a statement delivered by former director of the State Intelligence Service Nilantha Jawardena before the Commission pertaining to not informing former President Maithripala Sirisena regarding intelligence information on the attack, the former CID director has rejected the accusations. He also said that director of the National Intelligence Service normally enlightens the President daily on state security, public protest and other related matters. The President becomes knowledgeable on the situation in the country through the Intelligence Service. When he was cross-examined by President Counsel Chamal Pereira regarding evidence by a senior official before the Commission on an unseen force behind the attack, Shani Abesekara has responded saying that he was also suspicious of such a situation. He added that he was not certain whether there had existed an unseen hand or some other faction had controlled suicide bomber Saharan. The President's Commission has concluded receiving evidence from 440 witnesses after obtaining the evidence of Shani Abesekara over the period of more than 1 year. The activities of the Presidential Commission was officially ended at 4 p.m. today with the conclusion of the final session.
Construction of the new Bodhi wall of the Bellangwila Rajamaha Viharasthana has commenced today. Measures have been taken to construct the new wall after botanists have determined that the existing wall around the sacred Bodhi would cause obstructions to the growth of the Bodhi tree. Ministers Gamini Lokuge, Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Marshal Sudarshana Pathirana and others were present on the occasion. Construction is being carried out jointly by the Dayaka Sabha and the Perahara Committee of the Viharasthana. The labour is being provided by the Sri Lanka Air Force. Chief Incumbent of the Viharasthana, Venerable Dr. Bellamwila Dharmaratana Thera, says the construction is being completed within 6 months.
Welcome back with sports news. An agreement was reached today to elevate the national athletics and trained to a professional level through contract basis. Sports Minister Namal Rajapaksa is taking the initiatives in this regard. Under the program, necessary facilities will be provided to sportsmen and women engaged in the fields of athletics, boxing, swimming and judo. Plans have been made by the High Task Force Committee appointed under the leadership of Chairman of the National Sports Council, Mahela Javardhana, to uplift these sports. And with that, we conclude tonight news. Do it just tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.